I think that a lot of the times, like, we force things. We force someone into being the one for right now or for a long period of time. So in that sense, I think that we try to control a lot when it can't be controlled. Like it's not there. It's and I don't mean not there like that there isn't a connection, but I do think that a lot of the times we try to make things into more than they are. And so in that way, I think that like we're trying to control something that cannot be controlled. And if we try to control it too much, that's like where the heartbreak comes into, because it's in a way it's our fault. So much in our life, is about like being responsible and knowing what we're doing, right? But I think, and a lot of people in life fall into routines, and I think that's why that like love has to be where we allow elements of surprise. It just has to be. I think that's why we know it's different. If it felt as controlled as everything else in our life, why would it be something that we fall for? I don't know. I think 70% we control together. I don't know. That's a really hard question because again, I think that two people can come together and put a lot of effort into making something. But I do think that like silently, especially women, they can seem all into it and they can seem like they're doing all the steps. But if the other 40% of it that's in the genes doesn't line up, like that's something that you feel. And so I think from the outside, it can look like there's this tremendous amount of effort that two people are controlling it and adding to it. But I think that deep down, I think that there are things that it's either there or it's not. And I think we can feel those things and we kind of can't overcome them, honestly. I feel like I'm becoming like more realistic. And I think that men actually, I feel like maybe a huge strength is that they're realistic. I've realized, like, I remember when for the first time I was like quote unquote rejected by this guy and he couldn't like really give an answer. I mean, there was such a connection there, but he couldn't come up with anything for why it just wasn't there. And at the time, I'm like, you could feel so humiliated by this. But when I realized that, like, it wasn't really this personal thing, it was just something wasn't there. I've learned that, like, I felt like that guy taught me so much. He was so smart. And I felt it more in my life, where the person could be amazing, but you just know inside that they're not right for you. And that can seem really negative, but I think it's also for the benefit of two people more. And so in a sense, I think that as much as like women want to nurture something, in a way, guys not nurturing something can really look out for both people.
Well, this is Rick here. I think you're right with respect to a lot of this. And yeah, I mean, we shouldn't be trying to control situations, circumstances, or, our other significant person that's in the relationship with us, whether it's friends or lovers or spouses. I don't think that we have the right to be controlling things. We have a right to be responsible for our actions and what we say and what we do, but not to control. Love is not something that we should try to control our partners with. It just doesn't work. I think relationships, whether they're friendships or more deeply involved, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, I think that, relationships are all about being the best friend you can be. They're about trust. They're about communication, respect for one another, and love and being in love. So it's not about control. When you try to control other people, you're right, it turns into a mess. Love doesn't work that way. Friendship, trust, open communication, All of that stuff doesn't work when it's controlled.
Yeah, I too feel that, or think that you hit the nail on the head. It's something difficult to realize, though, while you're in the midst of it. Boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, girl is a bit resistant, then finally she comes around, then you get married, and then some years later you end up getting a divorce because what happened is she felt that you made her an offer she couldn't refuse, literally or figuratively, and off you go. And then there's the power struggle that most couples don't get through. So, this relationships are a lot of freaking work. A book that I read some of was called Seven Conversations for a Lifetime of Love, and it is available through the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Handicapped. And the app, of course, is Bard. But be that as it may, that was a really good book for couples to kind of go through and open up different conversations and stuff. So, have a great one. Great post.
Well, I think there's a lot of different things here that are at play, and as human beings, we are complex creatures by nature. But, part of it is, I think that sometimes, people really try to force things or force themselves into feeling things, and you can't do that, no matter who you are. I would say 99% of humanity has emotions that sometimes are not explainable. Feelings that maybe you can't attribute to anything. That's the type of stuff you can't control. So, like, if you meet somebody and you're really not into them, and they're really into you, while it's possible to develop feelings for that person, it's also, like, if you're not feeling it from the start, you're probably not going to. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be instant, but, like, if you date somebody or you hang around somebody for a while and it's just you're really not feeling it, you can't force yourself ultimately to be in love with that person. You can love them, but you won't be in love with them, if that makes sense. And where it concerns romantic relationships, I mean, I think you have to have both to really make it work long term. I also think that sometimes, doing all the right things to win somebody over and that person finally giving in, that's probably not a good way to go about it either. Because, like, if you're just not feeling it, it's eventually going to break down and fall apart. While these other things are important, equity in a relationship is important. Feeling valued, feeling, what's the word I'm looking for? Validated, that's it. Those are all important things, but also having that sort of spark is there, and sometimes it just isn't. And no matter how hard you try, it just won't be. And, I think that sometimes that's why relationships fall apart, is when one person or the other tries to force it, and then they find somebody else that ignites that spark in them, as much as they say, no, socially, that's not acceptable, I can't do this, and so I won't, then they start to have resentment toward the person that they never had that spark for. It doesn't always happen that way. I mean, you can never say that about humanity. Every time X happens, Y will happen. It never works that way. As I said, we're complex creatures. But yeah, I agree with you that some of this isn't controllable. And either you feel that for somebody or you don't. And I don't know. I don't know if there's, I think there is something to chemistry, as I call it. That's just how it is, which makes it better when it's there, but it kind of sucks when it doesn't, especially in the short term. They say good things come to those who wait and all that, and I think it's true. If you're not naturally attracted to somebody, it's ultimately setting yourself up for failure in the long run.